Okay, let's, Andrew, I'll turn this over to you, please, if you don't mind, introduce yourself, and we'll go from there and tackle the questions.
Thank you, Bobby. I have to give kudos to the advertiser. It looks like with 45 PDUs, you'll be able to get your PMP certification and PMI ACP within short time. So good for them for creating this event for us. Thank you. My name is Andrew Soswa. I'm a project manager in the IT industry, and now currently I'm in business enterprise solutions at Bradford Exchange. Have been practicing project management for over 15 years, 10 years in Agile. I have run volunteering teams for PMI Chicagoland chapter, worked closely with Bobby. We work together on many exciting projects. I also have run Agile Scrum training courses for free on my own within the PMI Chicagoland chapter. And right now I'm excited to share my knowledge, and I'm waiting for Bobby's questions.
Well, actually, anyone can jump in here and actually unmute yourself and ask the question. But these are some, I was reading this article, Andrew, like we've talked about this Cliff Berg article that came up in the Medium magazine. And to me, it was pretty
meaty,
so to speak, for lack of a better description.
Yep.
He calls these as unworkable fantasies, based on the Agile Manifesto and the different principles of Agile. So we'll tackle them one by one. So he's saying this is not workable. Self-organizing autonomous teams are the best way to organize programmers. And of course, he's talking about software development here, but I think we can extend the argument that it can be product development or not even a software as a project. So
any kind of project. Any kind of project. So self-organizing teams, autonomous teams. Research says that I'm also researching on my own for my PhD program. So research says that a lot of organizations really want to stay with one prescribed methodology, and they want to enforce it throughout the entire organization. They don't want to choose and pick a special methodology for one team, such as Agile Scrums for software development and Agile Kanban for your marketing teams, or for your infrastructure projects executed according to waterfall or traditional methodology. So there is no self-organization in brick and mortar organizations. A lot of organizations that are driving self-organizing teams are those that are startups or are true agile organizations. Zippos and now Google is trying to go agile and fully agile. This kind of organizations are more prone to institute the self-organizing teams that drive the productivity from the bottom up. That's what I found out.
I want to ask from the audience, Vanita, for example, for you, have you worked in having a Scrum team, and are you finding out that you don't really have full autonomy, that there's still oversight in your organization or your project? What's your experience, Vanita? Lisa, what are your thoughts?
Sorry.
Oh, go ahead, Vanita.
My experience as a Scrum Master, the teams I've kind of scrummed 5 different teams, and I eventually like to make the teams self-sufficient so that they can, I empower them to do a lot of stuff on their own.
Right.
And that helps them to manage the product work, even if I'm not around. Initially, when the teams are new, I do have to sort of help guide them how things are run and how to manage work. But ultimately, I tell them my ultimate goal is to put myself out of work and let them have manage the work on their own. So
Exactly.
Yeah, and for context, by the way, for those who didn't hear, Vanita is actually works for State Farm, so that's a very large organization. But sounds to me they still have a little bit of latitude and freedom in terms of how she organizes her team and how she lays out her expectations.
Hmm.
Anyone else who want to chime in?
I want to chime in.
Sure.
I noticed that a lot of Scrum masters have this vision to put themselves out of work and start working on some other more exciting projects or some other initiatives. So what they want to do, they want to develop the team until the point that they self-organize and self-manage so that they can move on to help out other team to achieve the same capacity and then onto the bigger organization. So Vanita is not the only one. This is what's prevalent in agile organizations. In waterfall, traditional top-down brick and mortar, all those long time organizations, they would like to put some more process and structure on top of it because they believe that process and structure will help them achieve their capabilities faster because of all the money and time and effort they put into delivering and producing the products that they are already completing, that they are already working on in operations. So the best way is to work for a firm that has agile structure at heart. State Farm apparently is one of them, and start working way up.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, that's surprising to me, Vanita. Thank you for sharing.
Hmm.
Um,
you're welcome.
the second question in his article, the second question in his article is a little bit, I think, tied into the first one. The unworkable fantasy is that managers are an anti-pattern. There should be no hierarchy. No one should have explicit authority. All of the authority and all leaders should emerge through self-organization. So this is very tied to the very first notion. Anything else to add to this one? Andrew, I'll let you go first.
I think you just blew up a couple people's minds with that statement because that basically implies that there is no hierarchy, no one makes the decisions, people on the floor makes the decisions for the entire organization, which would spell out chaos for some of these organizations. And so in order to truly understand what it means is you have to work in an agile organization where there is a bottom-up push for the product development, whether it is a software or marketing material or anything else. And the organizations work in a fashion where executives and the bottom teams communicate frequently together, not from the top-down communication, but in a communication in a circle, in a constant communication for the constant improvement, like a circle.
So Andrew, I want to ask you this question as well. I personally know that you're working in your PhD, and have you come across some research to debunk this particular statement?
I worked at an organization that was really flat. We had 180 employees, one CEO, 15 managers, and everybody else was basically on the same level of hierarchy underneath the managers. And it worked really well. The team self-organized as fast as we could in order to make the work that was communicated to us by management, and any work that was done on the floor was communicated up through the managers to the CEO. It worked really great for that small organization, and it's really the we figure out the processes on our own because we had to make it work. The management did not tell us how to work, and so this is a workable solution. And there are some organizations that keep doing it. Zappos is that holocracy, right? Is one of them that basically they have good process in the place and they make it work and it works for them.
Absolutely. Is there anyone here on the call or in this meeting that actually has a contract or working with a government agency, or am I the only one? I just want to give a quick perspective on this one, especially with the state government, the state of Illinois. I, I came across some document as well, written by Deloitte, that one of their key concepts in doing process improvements is the notion of oversight. So there's people, process, tools, and oversight. So I think contextually, depending on an organization, especially in the public sector, I think oversight, i.e., managers having oversight on what the frontliners do, is still a necessary construct of that organization.
Um, I have to question that, because look at the way 3D works. So if you know what 3D works, they are this very innovative company that they produce these different products like Scotch tape and so on, and they introduce them very frequently. In a top-down hierarchy organization, brick and mortar organization, normally it is the top management that knows what the customer wants, right? They sometimes do the research with the end customer, but most of the time it's the top management that knows what the customer wants, and then they tell the managers to tell their workers what to do in order to complete that product, right? Or that project, to put that product into operations. At 3D, it is a completely different structure. From the bottom up, there are people on the floor who say, you know what, I have this problem. I want to shave differently, so it doesn't burn my skin, right? And they mull over these ideas and they come up with these ideas and they give them to the management and they discuss it with the management if this is a viable idea for the product. And then the management works with the team together. They discuss it. The management does not give orders to the team. It is the team and the management discussion together on the creation of the direction of the capacities and the organization into the future.
Yeah, for sure. Most definitely, the ones that are at the front line, that are customer facing, would have a true pulse on what the customer needs and wants. So for sure, that is a reality that organizations need to pay attention to. Any more comments on this particular statement? Item number 2. I'm going to start calling on people. Number 3 is no individual should be accountable. Only entire teams should be accountable. So for me, at least from a personal application perspective, I think my mindset still, and then I'm just talking about me, of course, my mindset still is that me as an agile project manager, ultimately, I am still responsible, or I am still the accountable person if you do a racing matrix. So Andrew, I'll give you the floor here.
Apparently, we all need to become better at Agile. So yes, looking forward to it, Bobby, that you will in the future. And reality, even in agile organizations, some of the managers still think that there is one person that is a choke for them to hold, right? And uh, how? So, what do we need to do over here? How do we recreate the entire management structure, the pay structure, the HR structure, in order to make the team accountable for their work, right? Because that's also one of the bigger questions. The team could be made accountable for their work together, but how do we create the pay structure? Who do we hold accountable? Do they themselves hold accountable within Agile? Yeah, that's what Agile Manifesto says, and I think but that's a very great idea. But does it fit your business organization structure? If it doesn't, you'll have problems trying to say that we together work as a team and we believe that this is true what we're going to do. And then your manager or the top management says that no, there is only one person responsible for this project, which is you, project manager, or as a scrum master. See, the entire organization has to work in tandem in order for that to work.
Yeah, thanks, Andrew. Laura, what are you seeing and what's your perspective?
I agree that it is a great idea. It's a wonderful thing to work toward, but many organizations, including the one I work in, are still very matrixed. So I don't think, as long as you have that management hierarchy, I think there's always going to be, it's going to remain a bit of a fantasy to say that individuals are not responsible. Um, I think it's a great idea, but I don't see that happening anytime in the near future, personally, where I work.
Right. And Laura,
And
where do you work, if you don't mind me asking?
I work for a large manufacturing company that used to be based in Peoria. Now it's based in Deerfield.
Oh, okay. I got you. Any other perspective, Mark? Can you share?
Yeah, I guess put a little different spin on that is I've worked in environments where managers set the tone for team level accountability and how to, lack of a better term, how to interact, how to treat each other, accountability at a team level in that perspective, but you still need to have within that accountability at the individual level in order for the team to function. You can't expect the team to be responsible for all of its parts.
Right.
But you can set the expectation at the team level on team interaction and how you expect team to treat each other.
Right.
that's true. That's at the heart of Agile. Basically, Agile tells you that the team should organize and keep each other accountable and true to their commitments. And if the teams truly do, they really work together. And for that, you have sprint retrospectives, and frequent discussions during your daily scrums and other meetings to keep each other accountable. But then when you try to apply it up the management chain, and say that the entire team is accountable, usually does not work in top-down organizations. Yep.
So I think the consensus is, I think we agree with Cliff Berg in this one. Number 4 is failure is the best way to learn. I'm not so sure. I think this is a fantasy in my mind, and I'll reserve my perspective at the end. Andrew?
Thank you, Bobby. So this statement is missing the end, because the failure is not the only way to learn. There are other ways. You could look up in the books, participate in this kind of webinars, talk to other project management professionals. There are other ways, and you don't always have to fail in order to learn. But it is critical to understand human psychology, how we learn the best way. And the best way we learn where we actually fail and memorize that failure so that we don't repeat it again. Those things that we have learned in the school throughout the years, those good things, we probably internalize them, but we don't remember. We remember our worst mistakes, so we don't repeat them again. And that's why this statement is true, in my opinion. There is this great leadership author, John C. Maxwell, who wrote Fail Forward. And in that book, he basically teaches that all you have to do is to fail forward all the time. So when you fail, you have to complete some internal processes to analyze, review what happened, and design a strategy how to make sure that you exploit your things that were best and you prevent the things that you did the worst way. And so that's why failure is one of those things that should happen in our lives as project managers in order to become our best.
Yeah, and I think to add to that one, I think the way this was framed is that this notion of agile lending into empiricism, the empirical process. And when I say empirical process, what that means is that you have a proposition or a statement or a theory, and you do experimentation to prove if your theory was correct in the first place or if it's incorrect. So I think this particular statement lends more towards the empirical process, i.e., agile is lending as a framework is lending itself to empiricism, and i.e., experimentation.
Okay, I'll take that as a yes.
Anyone another perspective? Lindsay? Lindsay, can you share? Or Nancy? I'm not sure if I already called on you, Nancy.
There, I was trying to unmute. So I would agree. I agree that the way that they're going to remember is to fail, right? Is it the best way? I'm probably not sure. There's probably other ways that they could learn just as well, right? But when they do fail, they need to learn from it and try to move forward. Just like you had mentioned, you want to fail forward and improve.
Right.
Hi, Bobby. This is Jimmy Duck. Can I add something? I work at State Farm, and I think failure is the best way to learn. I think in a large organization such as State Farm, failure is difficult. We're not set up that way.
Right.
We don't fail quickly, right? Our whole thing is to not impact the customer when we do implement something. So it's very difficult for us. I think this is what we struggle with the most, is how quickly can we get feedback on any changes we're making without an impact to the customer.
It's true.
And it's very difficult for us to do that.
How do you think, in your mind, Jimmy, how do you think would you solve that problem?
We're doing some A/B type testing now, which seems to help in some of the areas. I think it's a mindset change. I mean, and and it's difficult for us in that the way everything is designed and integrates together, it's hard to set up an experiment without having to set up a very elaborate environment. I think it's almost like you need to understand what success looks like of that experiment or what a failure looks like, and do it in small increments if you can. And I think it's difficult for us to understand what success and failure look like without having the entire picture.
Mm-hmm.
Agree.
Yep.
Do you guys agree that looking at this statement that you frame your perspective based on where you're at with the organization, meaning if you're responsible for 500 people and a $500 million budget, you take a look at this statement and you think differently versus if you're in a small team responsible for a budget of 200,000 or even 100,000, I would imagine you'd think differently.
No, failure is a failure. It's just when it happens, you have to learn fast.
Yeah, and I think it may be, what's your impact of that failure? How do you isolate that impact and learn from it? You know, especially if you're talking the $500 and $500 million budget, right?
Yeah.
I think it's, for a startup, I think it makes a lot of sense.
Yep.
You can quickly fail because you don't have millions of customers. At a major company, it's difficult for us to do that.
Yep. I have to piggyback on what Jamie said about failing at the management level. So years back, around 12 years ago, I was working for the organization that actually my functional manager was managing my work as a project manager, and he was saying everything has to be 100% on time, on the money, on budget, and in the scope, because this is how the project management should be done. And so the failure was not acceptable even at 1%. As you can imagine, I decided not to work there anymore because failure always happens, no matter what, no matter all our best efforts.
I appreciate that, Andrew.
Bobby, this is Lindsay. So I think that anything that's hard is where you, and whatever you're struggling to learn or struggling through the process, that's what helps you learn it and remember it better. And the more that you practice or put test runs through and test the system, that will help you launch whatever project you're on, and it will prepare you to be able to answer questions. But it's that time and effort in testing the system and working through the unknowns and the hard pieces. But that's what makes you the expert of whatever, project you're on.
Yep, agree. Anyone else want to add this? Vanetta is saying failure acceptance for companies is based upon how much dollar loss is there. So thank you, Vanetta.
Yeah, they sometimes try to calculate through some kind of KPIs or a scorecard.
Yep, absolutely. Number 5, one should always trust the team, even if you have never worked with a team before. So did this mean you don't go through the norming, forming, performing stage? Andrew, you get first
I think you missed one of them over there also, or two, because there is also closing stage for the team. However, I think that statement is completely incorrect. You cannot always trust the team. As project managers, those who went through the PMI, PMBOK, we always know that we have to trust but verify. And so you cannot give an implicit trust into everybody's work until you see them performing and actually analyze if they are performing up to the par, and you coach them on how to perform better. And that's where you develop trust, when it's a two-way communication within closed-end settings, not within the team settings at first, but face-to-face, one-to-one, or at least online, and you provide a good feedback for the person to build them up. You invest in that person to build them up in their capacities and in their skills, and that's way you gain the trust. And you cannot always trust the team, even if you have never worked with a team before. I believe that's an incorrect statement.
If I think I would agree with you. And I think, especially now with COVID, where we're social distancing and everybody's working remotely and everything's virtual. And if you are assigned to a new team or a new project, I would imagine it would be harder to establish that relationship with your team one-on-one. What are you guys finding out if you've been assigned to a new project? Pat, can you share with us?
So I'm retired, so I don't have any particular team I'm working with right now. So I'm not sure I'm going to be able to give good insight.
Marie, how long have you been at CPS?
How long I've been at CPS?
Yeah.
I've been at CPS for 3 years now.
How was it like at the beginning of your engagement? Did you trust everyone right away, or did you have a sense of?
I'm the kind of person that actually take my time when I get into a new opportunity, employment opportunity, and I would say about 6 months to just sit back and look. So no, I can't say that I'm trusting people. I'm mostly just looking at the dynamics of the business and how things work and what are the roles, because often you know people might have titles, but the actual role is not necessarily the person that has that title. So
I think you're applying some situational leadership principles where basically you strategize and you value trust differently with different people.
yes, definitely. I'm a people's person, being in sales and such. And I have a background in social work, so I'm more of looking and using that opportunity. People will not get to know me that much in the first 6 months when I have a new employment opportunity, but I'm just gonna try to analyze a little bit. So.
Yep.
So to Marie's point, I think people's personality plays a part into this particular situation as well. And just for context, Marie actually is in Montreal area. Anyone else want to share?
You ask a good.
Sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
No, this is Vanita here. I was just going to say, when I get a new team, I have to trust them to some extent since I'm not familiar with that work in the beginning. But I think over time you build that trust gradually. And I tend to usually, with the new team, meet with every individual on one-on-one basis and try to build that trust and let them know how I can help them, and so that they can be comfortable enough in reaching out to me if they need for their work that's been blocked due to something, to be able to reach out to me and help them out. And I think that building of trust gradually reaches to a good point. And I think number 4 kind of ties into it, where you have to let them also fail a little bit so that they know how to get back on track with the help of the Scrum Master, or aka the trust that they've built with us.
Yep, completely agree. Thank you, Vanita. If nothing else on this one, we'll move on to item number 6 here. And I think this is very deep into technology. All development teams should be feature teams that work, or I think can work, across the entire set of technology stacks of the product. Andrew, you have a lot of experience on this one. You've worked with dev teams a whole lot.
I worked with different dev teams on different sides of the projects in different sides of organizations. This will work when you work in an organization when you have one development team or so-called one team of one project. Startup where you have 10 people just working together. This won't work when you are working in a huge organization where there are many different teams, especially if they are not co-located, not even by a country, and you're trying to bring everybody on the same page. Let's say you're instituting SAP into your organization that is a global organization that consists of offices in many different countries. This is a huge multi-year, multi-million project that you'd be executing. It'd be hard for you to manage by yourself, and you would have to get an entire team of PMO office managers to help you with that project. So that statement would work in a small organization, one team, one project, one organization.
Thank you. Anyone else? Benita saying, I think feature teams is kind of moving towards product team structure. Anyone else? I think a majority of our audience or participants here are from State Farm. So can someone give us a State Farm perspective?
Yeah, hey, this is Jim McDowell again. I can give at least my perspective through State Farm. This is very difficult to do at State Farm. You can work. A product team can handle their product, but when it comes to security or detailed infrastructure or even test environments, those product teams will struggle, and they've got to reach out to other teams. So they can't support end-to-end of that product usually, especially if it's an integrated product.
Mm-hmm. Correct.
Yeah, Jimmy, I have the exact same experience as well. The project I'm working on some data center. But they're very specialized. My developers are very specialized in a very specialized product stack as well. So to Andrew's point, I work for a company, or at least I'm outsourced to a company, a private entity that is very large and very huge, and we're very specialized. We have even resource managers, for example, in Costa Rica, and that's all they do is schedule resources. So they're very specialized. And again, VMware is a huge private corporation. So they're publicly listed, I do believe, but to the level of State Farm, very large organization, very specialized. And I think this item number 7 is very coupled into item number 6, which is saying anyone should be able to work on anything. Andrew, I think this speaks to, for example, someone who's doing the development work. He or she should be able to do QA testing. And I think that's one example to this particular statement.
Yeah, I think you're correct. What the author probably meant was that there is a small team where one person can become a manager and manage the project as a Scrum Master or as a project manager, could do some work in the database or development or product marketing, and then QA it and then release it to the customer. And with that kind of cross-functional functionality, responsibility of that person, it is possible. It is not possible in the big top-down organizations because they do depend on specialization for each person to provide the biggest throughput for their input.
Agree.
Yeah, I think not all skill sets are portable. So as you said, it depends on the organization size of the organization and the team's skill sets, which may not be easily moved from one person to another.
Agreed.
That's a dream.
I've tried this. And it has not necessarily worked every time.
Yeah. On some of the projects, I am client relationship manager with the external vendors. I'm a business analyst in order to document the requirements and keep the documentation up to par. Project manager to oversee the entire structure of the project and other project managers. Scrum master on the team. QA analyst because I help out with the testing. And I don't try to get into development or the database management because that's already too much. And I also manage the business teams and help them out with their processes. So it depends on the project. It's very dependable on type of the project that you're working on, but no one person can work on anything in the entire project. You basically imply that there is only army of one. There's only one person in that entire organization. It is you. You are the CEO and the end worker.
Yeah, and then Ingrid just put in the chat to her point, piggyback on what you're saying, Andrew, is all teams are not products. They're trying to make them products. I think all of these topics seem to be geared to small organizations, those that may have one or two products. Ingrid, thank you so much. I think you're spot on that one. And C. Thompson is saying, should we consider skill sets and desires of the teams for item number 7? So yeah, definitely. If you have a smaller organization, you may be interviewing, consider a candidate to be joined on the team to have a huge technology stack of being able to develop in various languages. So that's a good point. Not sure what your first name is, but C. Thompson wrote that. We'll move on to, we don't have a lot of time. We have about 10 minutes left. We'll go a little bit faster here. But I think everyone can speak to this. An open team room is the best arrangement so that people can collaborate most easily and will benefit from osmotic communication. Last year when I was working on a specific project, I found it hard because I was in a different building, and then I'm the kind of person that I wanted to have face-to-face meetings with my team because we were getting into complex conversations. So walking across 2 parking lots on -20 wind chill and ice on the parking lot, I was not looking forward to those meetings. But I love having being in the same room with my team. I think for complex conversations, I think this is very spot on. What are you guys' thoughts on this one?
I think that we all had to adjust because of COVID, really fast virtual communications and how to build our trust and relationship real fast via video on virtual teams. And osmotic communication, I really like that because you learn a lot about the entire organization, the team structure, how people work together, what works, what doesn't, these things that are not documented. But there is also some need for documentation. So not only osmotic, but also, written down communication.
Agreed. Anyone else? What are your thoughts? I think this is hard to do, again, because of COVID, where we're all working from home. But what are you guys doing in essence to enrich your communication team and so nothing gets lost to translation? What are you guys doing? Andrew,
I agree with Ingrid. I'm not super fan of the collaboration room unless it is really with a team that trust each other. And I'm not saying this is the development team or the product team, not call it development, the product team. Sometimes I invite the managers who I really trust and value, and the entire team does, and that's to the betterment of the entire product and the project. And collaboration, with the others depends a lot on the trust. And when no one speaks up and only I'm speaking to the PowerPoint presentation, I feel that there is something definitely missing there.
Yep, absolutely. So beyond the physical arrangement, then what you're saying is there has to be that human connection and that trust level with the person and the team,
Yep.
no matter of how much you try to enrich that communication. So thank you. Hey, Vanessa, what are you seeing? What are you doing to enrich your communication and increase your level of trust with your team?
Well, I work for AT&T, and most of my team members have always been not in Springfield with me, either in Chicago or across various other offices in the nation. I mean, I'm kind of used to being able to work remotely with people and develop a good trusting relationship with them. We use Instant Messenger a lot, call them a lot, have meetings. You know, it's just having that open dialogue and talking to them at all times possible, really. And then just having those meetings that we need, you know, to make sure to get together as a team and to work on things. So that's really what I try to do with my team members and make sure we're all working together to that common goal and get things completed in time and, you know, within budget and stuff. So
That's good. So pre-COVID, did you any budget?
You have some feedback, Bobby.
Vanessa, I'm going to mute you for a second, but pre-COVID, Vanessa, did you at AT&T have a budget to have a get-together or a celebration together pre-COVID?
yeah, we did. You know, sometimes I'd have to go to Chicago for meetings and whatnot because we would get together every once in a while face to face. But obviously now, like you said, we haven't been doing that because it's not safe for anybody. So, but yeah, we did before in the past get together like that.
Okay, thank you.
I've seen some teams doing virtual happy hour, if you know what I mean. You know, together on Friday, 5 p.m.
Yeah. Number 9, and it's the last one. We have about 5 minutes left. More collaboration is always better. Verbal communication is always best. I agree on this one. Face-to-face is better when you're trying to have an understanding of something complex or something emotional, especially. I think picking up the phone can be a better alternative as a mode of communication instead of texting. Again, for something that is complex or personal or some message that needs to be delivered in a more careful manner. So what are you guys seeing, or what's your perspective?
All right. So this guy apparently, you know, participated in some of the Toastmasters meetings where they teach, where they actually teach face-to-face communication. One-on-one is the best. The second level of the communication is via phone call. The third type of the communication is via SMS, text. And the fourth one is via email or snail mail. And this is the strata of the best communication that you could have with your team members. Apparently in this COVID-19, we're going to have to do with the virtual one-on-one communication, and collaboration is always better no matter what. There is no team of one. You still have to collaborate with someone. You still have to talk to someone in order to get the information or provide the information. So you're not working alone. We all working together as a team.
That's awesome. We've got about 3 minutes left. If any other thoughts that you want to share? Yeah, Andrew, I want to pose the last question to you. So for us, not practicing Agile correctly or properly or in a perfect manner, what are the 1 or 2 things that we can do with our team given everything that we've discussed today?
The first thing where the Agile fails after it's instituted in our organization is the removal of sprint retrospectives. So on the other hand, you are driving toward Agile until you have sprint retrospectives. And it doesn't matter if you do Agile Scrum or Agile Kanban or any other TTD, type of Agile project management methodology. It really matters if you are innovating and learning together. And that's only done when you start having sprint retrospectives or retrospectives. Doesn't matter if it's within a sprint, which is like time-boxed iteration of your product development. It is about retrospectives, about innovating and improving together. That's where you become really agile.
Anything else, Andrew? Is this just doing lessons learned in essence?
It's not the lessons learned. Lessons learned in the regular or traditional project management is that one of these nifty features in your PIM bag where everybody reads about, a PMO says you have to do it. Sometimes you do it, sometimes you don't. If they really tell you to do it because your paycheck depends on that, you'll do it. And you document these things. No one will read them, and you store them into a shared drive or somewhere else on your local that no one will have access to. It is about truly learning together and improving each other, improving the product, and improving the organization. That's what the true retrospective session is all about.
Thanks for clarifying that. Hey, I want to call for 30 seconds. I want to call, we have another board member with us. I believe that's Ingrid Holiday with us. Ingrid, anything to share for about 30 seconds?
Hi, everybody. No, I don't have anything to share except for what I already shared, but this was really good. I really enjoyed this.
Okay,
perfect.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We just had the PMI North America Leadership Institute meeting, and we learned a whole lot of new offerings by PMI. So we will share those in our newsletter and some other communication through social media. There's really a lot of exciting things coming down the pike with PMI. So appreciate your time today. Andrew, thank you so much for sharing your time with us.
Glad to be here.
Everyone who joined today. Hope you have a great day today and hope you have a great weekend as well. Great week. So Andrew, thanks again. Thanks for your time. Appreciate you.
Thank you. It was great to be here. Thank you, Bobby. Bye-bye.
Thanks, everyone.